Gabe, wait for me!
Run faster! It's right behind us! Here, go into the kitchen.
What are we gonna do? We can't outrun it.
We gotta hide. It's our only chance to survive the night.
We can't fall asleep, though. What if it finds us?
I think we still have some coffee from earlier. That should keep us alert.
Gabe, hurry!
Got it. Here we go. Expedition Roasters. The artisanal roasters, especially pop culture inspired coffees.
Oh yeah, this'll keep us awake. It was really good this morning. I bet it's even good cold. It was Ghoulish Delight, right?
Ironically, it was Happily Never After. You know, the ones themed after the Haunted Mansion?
Well, it looks like we stumbled into our own haunted mansion, am I right?
It's no time for jokes. Drink this.
Oh man, this is good.
Trust me, as soon as we get out of here, you can buy as much Expedition Roasters as you want. I know you love the art on the bags.
Hey, can I have some of that coffee? I'd kill for a good cup of coffee. Not literally, of course.
You gotta be joking me. Ow!
Just give him the coffee and shut up.
Sorry if I scared you. Being a bit tired can for sure make me a bit grouchy. Oh man, that's so good. Reminds me of a coffee I had at this old mansion in New Orleans. One heck of a swinging wake.
If you like that, you might like their other ones. They come out with other flavored coffees all the time.
I don't think ghosts have internet access.
Well, we must be going now.
Thank you for the coffee.
Anytime, and thanks for not hurting us.
Oh, it's not a problem. I never wanted to hurt you or follow you home, but...
But what?
I can't speak for my friends.
Start your hauntingly good time today at expeditionroasters.com and use coupon code DUO15 to save 15% off your first purchase of Expedition Roasters themed coffees. Brew your happy place. Expedition Roasters, an adventure in every bag.
Welcome to Theme Park Duo Podcast. Grab your severed heart monster friends and hop in line as we take you on a creepy tour of some of the best haunts around.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Theme Park Duo Podcast. My name is Nikki.
And I'm Gabe.
And we are
The Theme Park Duo. Now, this might sound a bit different to you guys, and that is because we are recording in our living room with a different set of microphones, and that's because we have a baby.
It finally happened.
Yeah, so our little bundle of joy, Erin Elizabeth Montoya, was finally born, and she came out at a hefty 7 pounds, 10 ounces.
And 19 inches. And the funny thing is that she was born 2 days after I attended WB's Horror Made Here.
So could we say that Horror Made Here was so scary it makes you have a baby?
It might.
That's true. It just might. And yeah, so we're in the living room recording because Erin's sleeping in here. We don't want to leave Erin alone, and we kind of don't want to take her into the office. So Nikki actually currently has Erin laying on her asleep. So we're going to try to an attempt to record this episode all about WB Horror Made Here in Los Angeles. And this is something that was really the only haunt that you got to attend this year, Nikki.
Yeah, it was the only one. I bowed out of going to Scary Farm and Halloween Horror Nights and all the rest because they were just too close to my due date. And in hindsight, if I knew I was going to be 8 days late having Erin, I would have gone to all of them. and so I'm a little sad that I didn't. But I was like, at that point, when Horror Made Here press night came around, I was like, whatever, I'm going. It's only like 15 minutes away from our house. I'm going. I don't care.
So if we ended up needing to go to the hospital for any reason whatsoever, we could actually end up just driving to the hospital very quickly and calmly, because the hospital that we go to is really not that far away from our house. So everything worked out. We ended up getting induced the next day. So, so it all worked just fine. Now, as some of you may know, Horror Made Here was around the last couple of years. The first year really was only a tram tour, and then the second year, which they had their thing going, which was last year, they incorporated some different mazes and things like that. And then this year, they've even expanded even more upon that. And to be quite frank, we were really impressed with what they were able to accomplish with such a small space.
Yeah, it was really cool what they did. They expanded the actual hub so much. Like last year it was just a stage and some food trucks, and this year it was a whole bunch of themed shops and food vendor places, and and a ride right in the middle. It was like this cool carnival drop ride. The whole theme was kind of like a circus carnival feel, and it was a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, so we were really, really impressed with what they were able to accomplish, and we had a bunch of fun. I think Warner Brothers has something unique on their hands, because the way that they kind of develop and the way that they establish their mazes and their scares are very unique and different than what most of the other haunts in Southern California are doing. And I think that really is what sets them apart from the rest and makes it different and kind of makes it appealing, as opposed to just, another run-of-the-mill haunt with monsters and mazes doing the same old thing all the time.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. It's very refreshing to have this kind of paced and in certain mazes kind of show moments. It's really fun.
No, not all the mazes are show moments, and there are mazes where you're walking through, but you can tell after having experienced some of what they have to offer that it does differ in pace, and it does differ in a lot of other aspects. So we're going to touch upon all of that. We're going to touch upon the experience as a whole, from beginning to end, for us, and what we thought about everything that we experienced during the night. And let's start off at the entrance. So last year, got into a golf cart across the street, drove you across, dropped you off, and literally in the area where everything happens. This year, got into a golf cart, dropped you off somewhere different, where they have this huge entry piece that has decorations that really puts forward the idea that this is a circus festival theme, and music playing from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the creepy, nightmarish clown music and things like that. And there's monkeys holding dead bodies with no heads on it, and clowns and dragons, and even ride pieces from a carnival ride that are all rusted and broken apart and strewn about, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a really commanding entrance to this event that really sets up the tone, as well as it sets up the idea of what kind of theming we're in for during the night.
Yeah, it looked kind of like a carnival graveyard. It was really cool. And the entrance was this big, it was the Joker mouth, right? Yeah, it was you entered through the Joker's mouth, and it's this really big grand entrance, and then you walk it through, and you're in this street where, if you went last year, it was where the line was for the It maze. And you walk down this little street, and it's a scare zone. So they actually had a scare zone this year, which was super cool.
I thought that the idea that Joker face isn't the first thing you see. Yeah. You're seeing all these different props and things like that. You actually have to walk around a lot of props and around the corner in order to see this Joker face, and it's a nice reveal, because it isn't out there in the open. It's oh, I see that the Joker's here and all this stuff. No. It's it's a cool reveal, because I know that when we walked around the corner, at least for me, I dorked out completely. I was oh my god, that's so cool, and it feels in the realm of the Joker that still fits within the realm of circus. And freak show and sideshow, which is the theme of all this huge scare zone that they've established as the entrance to the event itself. And that alone, I really liked having a scare zone as the entrance statement for the event itself, because it needed it. That was the one thing from last year, is like they had some Georgies walking around, which was kind of cool, and occasionally had the characters running across, but there was never really a scare zone. And I think the addition of this scare zone, which it doesn't really have a name on the map, it literally just says scare zone, with this addition, I think it really pushes the event forward into what people would expect from a Halloween event.
Yeah, I completely agree. It makes it that it gives it that one extra thing that we felt was missing last year.
And so the characters are kind of roaming around that area. There's like pinheads and monster creatures that are dressed like clowns. There's a bearded lady on stilts. There's a clown on stilts. There's just clowns in general. And all of them were kind of ranging in the way that they acted and kind of interacted with guests at the event. You know, some were very sinister and mean and scary, really getting in people's faces. There was others that were dancing through the night and having fun because there's a DJ booth and playing music all night. Then there was ones that were just kind of creepy in general, just kind of stalking around. So you're getting a good wide variety of characters in this moment. I think the only thing that was lacking was how big the scare zone was. It really was only located within the entrance and a little bit out into the street area of the event. I think that this event needs to be completely enveloped in a scare zone, and I'm completely fine with it being one theme. It doesn't need to be multiple themes, and the reason why I say that is because its footprint is not that big, and with a footprint so small, utilize it with more monsters and making it feel like there really is nowhere to hide. You know, like a Scary Farm situation where you have thousands of monsters, in which in this case you don't need thousands of monsters because it's so small. You could easily hire at least 20 more monsters and have them roaming the entire grounds and messing with people in line, messing with people who are just having like a drink or something, you know, just making it a little bit more of an unpredictable atmosphere, which I think would really, really help this out.
Yeah, I agree. It's not that big of an area, so you could have monsters roaming around that whole circle, and you wouldn't need to hire that many more. Basically, this year it was wherever there were table and chairs. That's as far as they went. I noticed, you know, so they would mess with people around the stage and around the seating areas and the vendor areas, and that was it.
Yeah. So I mean, other than that, that's really my only critique. I really enjoyed the idea that there was a scare zone involved this year. Just anything that really helps it progress as an event to me is a major plus. And I think that's why this year's event did so well, is because they've established what works, what doesn't work, and they've built upon what works. So let's kind of establish the layout of the event itself. So as you actually enter the event, you turn to your left, and in the distance you see the Kneebolt House, which is where you find It Knows What Scares You, one of the other mazes. Immediately to your left, you'll find the Little Shop of Horrors, which is like the gift shop. Immediately to your right, you'll find Fantasia, which is the bar from, what's that show?
True Blood.
True Blood, yes, True Blood. I did not watch that show. Nikki watched the show, so it was completely new to me. But yeah, so you'll find that immediately there. A little bit further to your right, you're going to find Arkham Asylum. In the middle of everything, there's a square center with grass where you'll have the drop tower. To your left, if you venture down a bit, you'll find the Lost Boys Arcade and the Craven Cafe. In the far left portion of the lot, you'll find the church where the Exorcist Forbidden Screening takes place. If you continue to keep going, you're going to find the Conjuring experience, well, at least the Conjuring universe maze, and then you'll also find Nightmare on Camp Crystal Lake, which is all the way to the right-hand side, where you jump on the carts and go to another portion of the back lot in order to experience that. So that kind of gives you a sense. It almost feels like a big square, if you will, where everything is kind of located. Everything's really, really close together, so if you want to check out a line, you could easily be like, oh, it's right there. It's only so long.
Yeah, you can see everything basically from the middle, and I don't really know what else to say about that.
But yeah, so sorry, Erin tends to do this thing where she gets startled and her arms just fly up, and we find it funny every time she does it. Anyway, moving forward, let's start talking about some of the experiences they have here at WB this year. So the first one we're going to be talking about is It Knows What Scares You. So last year they had the Neibolt House, which you could have found at Hollywood and Highland here in Los Angeles, California, and they pretty much just recreated it, and nothing really was different last year. This year, it's pretty much 98% different, completely getting rid of the tour aspect that was originally part of the experience, where Georgie kind of took you room to room and things were experienced in those rooms, more relying upon the normal maze aspect experience.
Yeah, it was pretty different this year, and it was honestly fantastic. It was focusing more on the things that scared the children rather than on Pennywise as like the main focus of it. So, they had the woman in the painting. They had, I'm trying to remember what else they had.
They had the clown room back, which, because in the movie Richie doesn't like clowns, so they had the clown room back. Like you said, they had the woman in the painting. You had Georgie in the basement filled with water, which was Ben Denborough. Is that his name? Ben? I don't remember. The stuttering one. He's fearful of that. You come across the leper. You come across a lot of different characters from the film, and what's pretty wonderful, and because last year you never really ran into Pennywise, like maybe once, and it was like an animatronic version. You run into him so many times in this maze, and I think it's fantastic being able to run into the titular character himself, and utilizing these immortal masks that were created specifically for the event, and it just really works wonderfully. And actually, I found this maze to be one of the scariest. They utilized their space really, really well. Only downside is that they covered up the Gremlins house for it.
Yeah, I did miss seeing the Gremlins in the window and hearing the music, but you're right. I definitely got scared more in this maze than I did in the maze last year, and it was one of my favorites of the night, I think.
Yeah, I think what they did was pretty wonderful, and there's a lot of really cool things near the end of the maze that I think help kind of build upon what the movie did, and putting yourself within the realm of what the movie is, and even building upon that and kind of really developing the fears a little bit more and more and more in less of a literal sense, but more of like a, I guess, extreme sense. Like there's one whole hallway that has a whole bunch of Georgie arms that are ripped off hanging from the ceiling, something like that. And you get a good mixture of literal translation from the film and then a little bit more fantastical translation from the film, which I think is a good mixture, and I think it works well for an event like this.
Yeah, I completely agree on all fronts.
And what's actually really cool is throughout the entire event, you actually can find the not wanted, missing kids posters everywhere. So, it's almost like a mini advertisement for the maze itself. So you'll find posters of missing kids inside the Craven Cafe, or even in the Lost Boys arcade, even in the gift shop. So I just like the little touches like that kind of scattered throughout. And the maze itself, detailed beyond all belief. And for me, it's really rivaling Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights when it comes to detail.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's, they got great properties and they have the ability to really make them exceptional mazes, and I think they're really doing that.
Yeah, so It Knows What Scares You has a big thumbs up for us. And the next one on the list, it happens to be the one that I think is the most highly anticipated maze at this event, and it is Arkham Escape from Arkham Asylum. And this is based off of the Arkham Batman video games, and I think everyone in the audience at Midsummer Scream lost their shit when they announced that they were doing this and shared some of the details. And I've never heard such enjoyment coming from both the haunt community as well as the video game community, bringing to life something so different, which you don't see video games come to life that often at these types of events. We saw it twice in my memory, having Resident Evil done over in Orlando, and then you had Silent Hill done here in Hollywood. Both I don't remember getting that great of a reception. I remember, obviously, I wasn't able to go into the Resident Evil one, but I kind of enjoyed the Silent Hill one. I don't know if you went that year, Nikki.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, so they had a Silent Hill one. I mean, it was good. It wasn't bad. It was really some interesting set pieces to it. But overall, it's not often that you get a video game experience at a haunted event. Now, I do have to say that although Arkham completely transports you to the world of the Joker and Harley Quinn and all these other characters, I don't think it was ultimately scary. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, especially at an event like this. But with that being said, I do want to preface all of this with, we don't scare easily. Like, we don't get scared that easily at all.
Yeah, we really don't. We're kind of used to the scares and, all that. So we don't get scared that easily. But you know what? I honestly don't think it matters for this maze. It was so cool. And one thing I really want to emphasize, because someone asked me, they were concerned that, like, well, if you're not really into gaming and you don't really know the game of Arkham Asylum, will you still enjoy it? And if you're familiar with these characters at all, which everybody is, you will enjoy this maze, whether you're familiar with the game or not. And it really is just super fun, and it is more of a lighthearted is the wrong word, but it's not like a sinister, scary, like, oh my gosh, I'm terrified maze. It's like you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. And just in, like, it isn't the film Batman version, but if I were to compare it to anything, it's like literally being picked up and dropped into a Joel Schumacher version of Batman. Bright colors and, things that are really pop, and it's more kind of funny, creepy than scary, and running into the Joker is more of like a jokey Joker, more of like a jokey interaction than it is scary. There are moments that are meant to be scary. They didn't get us at all, but there were moments that were meant to be scary, and we heard people screaming, and we saw people freak out. There was a lot of really good moments that I wasn't expecting a scare to come from that did come, and I thought that was fantastic. Ultimately, I think it succeeds in being able to transport its guests to this realm, or to this world, or at least bring them to our world. I think its sets were actually gorgeous and beautiful, and I know that you said that when we walked through it, we were both just jazzed beyond all belief seeing these characters come to life, and just we had our jaws on the floor just smiling and seeing everything happen, even as like Two-Face is coming at us with like this stick that sparks on the fence and stuff. We're just like, oh my god, it's Two-Face, this is so cool. Just dorking out beyond all belief. And I think that's partially why we weren't getting scared, because we were so distracted with how cool it was.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We were so just thrilled to be seeing all these characters come to life that it kind of took away the scared factor, the anticipation of being scared that you're supposed to feel, because you're just so jazzed. But I didn't mind at all.
Yeah, and I ended up going through this again, and what was cool is that I think based on kind of how the breaks work for those characters, you'll run into different characters if you happen to go into it like in another 30 minutes. So the first time we went through the beginning, we were introduced by Harley Quinzel. So before she turns into Harley Quinn, so she was the psychiatrist. She was dressed up in a suit and things like that with her clipboard, and then we meet the Joker in his judge outfit. We see Scarecrow. We see Two-Face. We see the Joker again, and we even see Poison Ivy. But then when I went on it a little bit later, I saw the Penguin, and I saw the Riddler, and there was a lot more characters kind of thrown into the mix, and then you end up seeing Harley Quinn in her full Harley Quinn outfit, which to me, all of that added together makes for a really, really, really fun experience.
Yeah, it was just completely fun and transporting. And the really cool part is that they had the Batmobile out front.
Oh yeah, they had the tumbler sitting out front, and there was these huge gates that said Arkham Asylum over the top. So this actually was in place where the Nightmare on Elm Street maze was last year. So it was a school, but they completely transformed it into Arkham Asylum, which to me, the set design was fantastic. And obviously, actually one moment that I thought was funny, you end up getting into an elevator, and Harley Quinn says, "Don't stay away from the walls, because they're gonna break and all this stuff." And both me and you were like, I feel like they just finished painting this thing like last minute, so that's why they don't want us touching the walls.
You could smell the paint. You could smell the paint.
It was like last minute finish, but I'm glad they finished because I was really happy to have experienced this maze because it shows what see, I'm mixing it up with Universal because of how good it is. It shows what Warner Brothers is able to do with a property that isn't a horror film. Now, in the future, I would love to see them incorporate more scares, more along the lines of what they do for their other mazes, because I think, if anything, Arkham, that version of Batman, lends itself more to being scary than any other Batman property. And, I mean, there's other characters that they could involve that are in that universe, like Man-Bat shows at some point. He's terrifying. There's a whole bunch of other things. Mr. Freeze, maybe. They could do really cool things. I would really love to see them delve more into the scares for that experience, because it's going to come back next year. It's gotta.
I'm sure it will. Maybe Batman will show up next year. Oh, spoiler alert, he doesn't this year.
Yeah, he doesn't really show up. His presence is kind of there, but he never shows up. I feel like he should have showed up.
Oh no, it was the Joker show. It was his moment to shine. Batman didn't need to be there this year.
Yeah, but why is his Tumblr there if he's not there?
Well, he helped at the end. Like you didn't see him, but he helped us escape.
Spoiler alert, Nikki.
Sorry.
Anyway, big thumbs up for Escape from Arkham Asylum from us. Next maze we're going to be talking about is the Conjuring universe. Now, this maze was there last year. Minimal changes have been made to it, and mainly in the beginning portions of it at all. And it's the setup. And I think this year's setup is better than last year's setup. And last year's setup, you kind of walk up to a garage, and it's the Warrens thing. You go in, some haunted things are starting to move around. Then you go into the whole experience. I think the way that they've set this year up is way more sinister in my mind.
I agree. It's got a better feel to it, and they just changed it really. Like, you still go into the room with all the artifacts, but it's not in the garage. It's in a separate room. Yeah. So yeah, I do like the beginning this year, and the rest of the maze is pretty much the same. But it's still awesome to walk through, and if you've never been through it, it's definitely worth it.
And this is one of the mazes that I think showcases what Warner Brothers does to kind of make certain experiences a bit different than most. And this one isn't necessarily a guided walkthrough maze. There are moments where you stop and you kind of look at a room and you're seeing things happening around you, and you have to wait in order to kind of go to another room. It's paced, which I'm totally okay with. And with this maze in general, I think you need it. I think you need to have these moments to kind of breathe in order to build upon the tension that they're trying to build upon.
Yeah, I completely agree. It does mess a little bit with the timing of the line. Like, you will wait a little bit longer for this one, but it is worth it. And so our recommendation is to go at the beginning of the night and just, wait till it gets dark. Because the event does start when it's still light outside. Wait till it gets dark, but definitely hit this one up pretty early because you will be waiting a little bit longer because of the pacing. But it's definitely worth it.
So like we had said, like the beginning was kind of the same, but the rest of the maze the beginning is a little bit different in its setup, but the rest of the maze is the same. Now, one thing that I really like that they added is the room that they kind of hold you in before you actually enter the experience is almost like an unfinished room with a whole bunch of figures that are covered in white blankets. It's very ominous and very creepy, and above you could hear walking, like stomping, feet stomping and walking. And when I went in alone, because we went through it together and then I went into it again, I was with a couple, and the woman next to me was like, I think there's someone up there. I think there's someone like upstairs. And I look upstairs, and I'm like, there's no one up there. Pretty sure it's just like sound effects or something. And she goes, no, I literally just saw someone walk by upstairs. And we were all kind of like staring upstairs, and it felt like we were in a horror movie where we're sitting there staring at the stairwell waiting for something to happen, and nothing was going to happen, but the tension was building. And then the woman opened the door, and we were like, ah.
Yeah, there definitely was someone walking up there.
I didn't see them, but like while we were talking, I just fixated my eyes on that doorway. I was like not moving my eyes. But I mean, I like the fact that she saw something I didn't. And it kind of built a little bit of tension in that idea. And so when we went into the next room where they kind of told us about these different things, there's some stairs and you could go up there, and the woman that was talking to us, she's like, did you guys see something? I'm like, is there something upstairs? And of course the girls were like, yeah, we saw something. And so she wanders upstairs, and there's like a good 10 to 15 seconds of her not saying anything, and it's just like quiet. And everyone's looking at each other like, she dead. She dead. And then she comes back down. She's like, there's nothing up there. Then the door slams behind her and everyone jumps because it's just creepy.
Yeah, it's super, super creepy. And like when we went through, it was no one actually went up the stairs, but a guy was like, oh, I saw something by that door. And then the door slammed. So it's a cool moment.
Yeah, and when I actually saw it, I saw the arm close the door. And even though I knew that moment was coming, the sudden nature of just arm slam close made me kind of like shiver a bit. Like it gave me the creeps, it gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I literally turned around. I was like, nope. And just walked away. People were laughing at me, but overall, I really enjoy this version of this maze. I think that what they built upon from last year is actually beneficial for this year, and I really, really like it, especially the ending. The ending to me is probably the best ending out of any of the mazes that they have here at the event. Something that last year we didn't see coming at all, and even though we knew it was coming this time, it's still wonderful to sit there and watch people's reactions because it's pretty incredible. I mean, the maze was there last year, so I guess we could talk about it. I think last year we didn't talk about it. But, Nikki, try to describe what this the ending is for this experience.
Okay, well, the ending is it's the last room, and you're in kind of a living room next to a staircase, and you're gathered around, and you see the portrait of the nun on the wall. And if any of you are familiar with the movie, you know what happens in that scene where the nun's shadow is, seen on the wall walking towards her portrait. And then you see the fingers come from around the portrait and grab the frame. And then what happens next is the nun is literally in the room holding the frame and running at you. And that's exactly what happens in the maze. The walls bust open and the nun is holding the portrait running at you. And last year that got us so good. And this year I was very pregnant and I made sure to be out of the way of all the people who are inevitably going to back up in a hurry.
People really don't like that moment because I don't think they're fully expecting it to happen at all. When you go into that room, you see the portrait, you see the character talking to you saying like, oh yeah, nothing in this house scares me except for this portrait. I really don't like this portrait. You watch the whole thing happen, and as every moment happens, you say to yourself, oh, they're definitely not going to do this. Oh, they're definitely not going to do this. They're definitely not going to go further. And they go all the freaking way with it, and I think that's fantastic because I don't think we've ever seen something like this before, and it kind of defies expectation with regards to an experience like this, because you wouldn't be able to have something like that in a normal maze. You wouldn't be able to have something like that in like a Halloween Horror Nights or even a Scary Farm maze for that matter. If it were like a Horror Nights maze or a Scary Farm maze, you probably have the shadow walk up and then the fingers and then that's it. You wouldn't have her bust out of there because there's no way of resetting it without people seeing you. So the idea that you see the shadow, you're like, uh-oh. Then you see the fingers, you're like, uh-oh. And then then she busts out of the wall and freaks everyone out, I think is fantastic. I really, really like this maze. I think it's a perfect shining example of what WB does perfect at this event, and I want to see more of this type of experience where it's almost paced and the tension is growing with room to room to room to room, and things get more intense as it goes on. I don't mind experiences kind of like it where it's more of a traditional maze because I think you need those just for pacing and throughput, but more along the lines of The Conjuring and Arkham with this kind of almost paced atmosphere, or even if it's a little bit of both where it's like paced and then the rest, because Arkham is paced at the beginning, then they kind of let you on your way. Conjuring is completely paced all the way through, which is the reason why you said the line gets really long. I wouldn't mind seeing more along this line because I think there's a lot of horror movies that can do really well with this type of structure for a haunt.
Yeah, I completely agree. And not every maze needs to be paced, but I feel like having a few in there that really showcase what WB can do as an event is really fantastic.
And I do have to say that nun made me almost crap my pants the first time she like busted out of the wall. Like I was like, next up is Nightmare on Camp Crystal Lake. Now this actually takes place at another part of the lot. So you actually have to jump on a golf cart, which Nikki likes to call a tram, and then it takes you to the other part, and then you get to experience it over there. Now, what I actually really like about this is as soon as you kind of start walking towards where you get onto these golf carts, the story has already started, because there's a big banner that says, "Welcome campers to Camp Crystal Lake," and, you know, it's the day that people are moving into camp. And as soon as you get on these golf carts, it's a camp counselor telling you about Camp Crystal Lake, and obviously making these cheesy jokes about death and murder and dying, and, you know, kind of that mixing that dialogue in with telling us about the campgrounds, which on the way there, the campgrounds, in quotation marks, is the back lot to Warner Brothers, and they're kind of making up this false narrative of what these buildings are on the campgrounds themselves. Now, you really have to suspend your sense of disbelief when it comes to this, because it's not like anything is decorated like a campgrounds. It's not like they have banners up that say Camp Crystal Lake. There's nothing. It literally is the Warner Brothers backlot, offices, facades, all these different things. And then they finally drop you off. And I actually thought this experience was really cool. Unfortunately, they told us that it was the test trial run of it, so not all the scares were there, not everything was working, and things like that.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing when they said that, but you know, even for what they had that day that we went, it was pretty darn cool. And so I didn't really miss anything. Like I'm sure if we went back and we see what they added now, you know, maybe more lighting, a few more actors, we'd be crazy impressed, but I was still really impressed. And you're right about the actual drive in the 20-person golf cart to Camp Crystal Lake. The story is a little thin because, you know, it is kind of like a mini tour through the back lot, or just through the lot. And so it's kind of like it's this weird mashup of backstory for their Camp Crystal Lake theme, mixed with look at that asylum. There was a bunch of girls in there that thought this girl named A was, chasing after them. So, they mix in, references to the shows and the movies that were filmed back there. So it was kind of a weird mix. But, other than that, once you get off the tram, the actual, experience is super cool and way more than I thought. There's an actual, maze that you walk through. And so I was really, really impressed.
Now, I think that this entire experience can really do without the whole beginning portion of driving around the lot. I know why it's there, and it's to kind of keep the trams from getting backed up and people getting backed up at the experience itself. If you're going to do something like that, you're going to need to build something else so that people can look at it and kind of get a sense of what's going on. Because I actually didn't, I thought that our tram driver, our golf cart driver, doing her spiel was fantastic. I thought she was witty. I thought she was funny. I thought what she was doing was great. I just didn't like the whole idea of driving around the back lot and not hearing about the back lot itself, but hearing these fake stories. I think a lot of people who are going there who have never been there before are going to get confused. I think they're not going to understand kind of what's going on. I think it's very apparent that it's not Camp Crystal Lake. It's not convincing in any way possible. If anything, there should be some type, I don't even know how they would do it. If you're going to set up the story, have something that's a setup of the story while you're actually at the location. What if they do this? What if you actually get on the tram, it takes you all the way there, and then you have orientation in a room. Someone's like, "Welcome to Camp Crystal Lake. We're going to have a great summer, guys." And then frickin' Jason comes in and just slashes them to death, and you actually have to run out of the room and then go along your way through the experience.
So, a way to still keep the spacing between the groups without having the fake kind of cheesy tram tour. Yeah, no, I think that would be a fun idea.
Yeah, I just think it'll work better for what they're trying to do and kind of envelop guests into this world of Camp Crystal Lake already. On top of that, like you said, completely impressed with what they're able to do, even though it was kind of like their trial run, like test run, things were missing. Still very impressed with what we saw and what they were able to accomplish with this kind of environment. It's woodsy. There really isn't much going on there, but I think that works to their advantage. We're walking on this trail, and if it's quiet, which it was, you have some camp counselor running out of the forest screaming like, "Oh my God, help me!" Puts you on edge. Just being in the quiet forest in general puts you on edge, and it freaks you out when someone just blows out of the forest and just starts screaming for help. I think the experience was unnerving. I think it was fun. I thought it was smart. And then eventually, like you said, there is like a maze portion, so you actually get to the actual cabins where campers are sleeping, and to me, this is the portion where it is the most impressive. This, to me, is the portion I find what sets it apart from, like a terror tram or things like that, which are something very, very similar. I think it lets hold or grabs hold and doesn't let loose at that point. You walk through and you're walking through the bunk beds, and there's dead bodies all over the place. There's actors jumping through the beds. There's Jason in there, dead bodies hanging from the ceiling, and Freddy's in the next room and he's attacking people. It just, overall, I thought the environment was very chaotic, and I really, really liked that. I thought a sense of chaos works for this type of experience. The things that, very well could be there now that we don't know about because we didn't get to experience it. So take this with a grain of salt. That I would love to see come to this experience is, when you're walking through this forest, instead of it being dead quiet, which is creepy, I would love for them to do the like doing that trademark noise from the Friday the 13th movies, or even having the nursery rhyme from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, playing at some point during this expedition that you're on. Even if it's like the Friday the 13th noise at the beginning while you're walking through the forest, and then Freddy's, nursery rhyme at the end, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, they very well could have added something like that, and I think they could add, and maybe have added, since we saw it, more lighting in like the bushes and the paths, because they had a lot of props, like dead bodies, other things on the side of the road that you were walking down that you just couldn't see because it was so dark. So hopefully they added a bit of thematic lighting along the way too.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be like spotlighting or anything like that. Like that, we're not looking for spotlighting or anything. Just very faint lighting so that it plays tricks with your eyes. And I think would be really interesting, because sometimes the scariest things aren't what you're actually seeing, but what your mind is imagining is there.
Yeah, like even something like as dim as like something like the glow of the moon. Just something very faint, to where you can kind of see something in the bushes that makes you kind of look over and really try to see what it is,
Yeah, but overall, I think that the setup and the idea for what A Nightmare on Camp Crystal Lake is pretty cool. The one thing that I actually was genuinely confused about is I going into it, I thought it was Freddy versus Jason. That's what I thought it was. And I think it's because the imagery that they're using on some of the pamphlets and the artwork and stuff like that are versions of them from Freddy versus Jason. So going into it, I was expecting to have like this big showdown of them fighting and all this stuff. Never happened. It was almost like a team up of sorts, where both of them were working together to kind of kill all the camp counselors and us at Camp Crystal Lake, which I just think that the story should be worked on a little bit more so that it makes it a little bit more clear what's actually happening. I just want a little bit more story to flesh it out.
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of vague because I thought it was going to be like a rivalry too, but they never really interacted that I remember, like with each other, just with us.
Yeah, they never really interacted with each other. There was a moment where like Freddy was standing by the Camp Crystal Lake sign, and then Jason was right next to it too. Yeah. But other than that, there really wasn't ever a moment where we saw them doing a kill together, fighting each other, Freddy yelling like insults at Jason or anything. We never ran into those moments. But I mean, I think that a lot of minor complaints of the experience can be easily attributed to the fact that it was just its test run. There's a lot of things that they're adding, and a lot of things that just need to develop. And I think an experience specifically like this needs time to kind of work through some of its growing pains, because actors are going to figure out what spots work the best. You know, they're going to have actors who know where the scares are going to come from the best and things like that. So I'm not too concerned about this, because throughout the season, I think it's going to mature and grow into a really, really cool experience, even much cooler than we think it is now, because I think it's actually better than the Terror Tram, and that's big words.
It is 100%, in my opinion, better than the Terror Tram. And then one thing that we can't overlook is that it drops you off once you get back on the golf cart. It drops you off at their what's it called?
Stage 48. That's it's called Script to Scream.
Yeah, and so it's it's the same place you go during the normal daytime tour, and it's got like a Central Perk, it's got all these exhibits, and one special thing that they have right now is a Tim Burton exhibit, which was super cool. There was Beetlejuice stuff, there was Coraline stuff, there was
no Coraline stuff. Coraline isn't Tim Burton. It was a Corpse Bride.
Oh, yeah, Corpse Bride, that's what I meant. Sorry, everybody. It's like,
You heathen.
I'm tired. You've had to slap my leg to wake me up like twice already. I hope no one could tell.
Yeah, but it was pretty much filled with props and costumes and things from all the Tim Burton movies you could possibly imagine. Mars Attacks. I wasn't expecting Mars Attacks to be over in that corner. That was freaking awesome. Then they even had the Beetlejuice suit. They had the Beetlejuice shrimp hand. They had the book from Beetlejuice. They had, the organ grinding machine from Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, the Sweeney Todd stuff was my favorite. And we had a friend of ours who works there walk through with us, and he was telling us which props were like the props from the movies. And like that was the real meat grinder from Sweeney Todd, and like the fireplace scene from Beetlejuice, that's the real mirror that was over the fireplace, in their house. And so it was really cool hearing all that stuff.
Let's not make it out to be that like half of it's fake or anything.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no, most of it's real. I think he was more or less pointing out the fact, like, the mirror is sitting over a bookshelf. Nothing on the bookshelf or the bookshelf is from the movie. It's the mirror in the book, not anything else. Or with like there's a fake body from Sweeney Todd. The guy who gets his throat cut. What's the guy's act? Who's he play in Harry Potter?
Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah, Peter Pettigrew. It's that guy. It's his fake body because he gets his throat slit. The head is from the movie and the neck is from the movie, but the actual body itself is from something else. So it's stuff like that where they're trying to help kind of give the idea of what's actually happening, kind of setting up the movie for people to kind of understand and getting a glimpse of like what it kind of is. They even have the miniature town from Beetlejuice. I mean, overall, I think that was just a film nerd's paradise, especially if you're a Tim Burton fan.
Yeah, so it's definitely worth checking out.
That's a yawn.
I wonder if that got picked up. You'll have to see.
No, it definitely got picked up.
Erin put her input in. She also thinks you should check out the Tim Burton exhibit.
Yes, she definitely does. Then after that, it's pretty much all the same stuff that you'll find at the daytime tour. You can sit on the friend's couch and take a picture and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Oh, and they have a special photo op. It's like a It photo op where you can put on the red raincoat and you're holding a balloon.
Yellow raincoat.
Oh, yellow. Yes.
And red balloon.
Red balloon, yellow raincoat. I'm tired.
I think they had another one too. I think it was like Arkham or something, but they had the two special photo ops that you could actually go into. So you go into like in front of a green screen, they take a picture, and then they replace the background with something. So, but stage 48, Script to Scream, super freaking. Oh, they even had the Batman cowl. They had the freaking Batman cowl. So cool. Okay, enough about dorking out about that other stuff. Definitely make sure to check it out. It's super cool, and you could also buy a whole bunch of souvenirs there because it's a souvenir shop, or visit Central Park to get a coffee. Anyway, I digress. Next thing on our list, Devil's Drop. It's the big tower ride that they have in the middle, which I actually think, even though we didn't ride it, I think is a great addition. One, takes people away from the line. Two, it's just a really cool visual to have at an event like this, especially if your theme is circus carnival.
Yeah, they turned off the lights for a few moments at one point, and it was really mist. Like, you kind of take for granted how much atmosphere it brings to that whole square, the whole event, and just hearing the constant screams of the people dropping. It's super fun. It just brings the whole place to life.
I want to see more of that. I think that's really cool to have these carnival rides. You know, I would love to see some carnival games. Maybe see like a tilt-a-whirl or something. Oh, that's a bad mixture with bars.
Well, they had one carnival game. It was the sledgehammer thing where you have to hit the bell. You know, you have to hit it really hard. And they were playing like tracks to like it was from Beetlejuice, and they were playing like little tracks from the Beetlejuice movie. But one thing I didn't really understand was that it was $5 for 2 hits, but it didn't look like there were any prizes or anything. So I was just watching people. I was waiting for Gabe at one point, and I was just watching people, you know, come up and hit it, and I was like, why on earth would you pay $5 for nothing?
Nikki, it's for the satisfaction of knowing how high you could hit that bell. It's not always about possessions, just FYI.
Well, not a lot of people rang the bell. I was watching for a while.
There wasn't a lot of satisfaction then. But yeah, like stuff like that, I think it would be really cool to kind of expand upon that with some more carnival games, some more carnival rides and things like that. It really did add to the atmosphere, and you're 100% correct. When those lights went out for that short period of time, you know, it really did take away from the overall ambiance and atmosphere, because it really gives it this, like, it's like a night at the carnival, like you go to the state fair or the county fair or something. You know, it's just so much fun. It adds a level of there's no other word, a level of fun to the actual experience of just walking around, and you don't even have to go on them to have that feeling of elation. You know, hearing people screaming that kind of stuff out of joy is really fun.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So after that, we have Fantasia. Oh wait, we skipped one. You skipped one. How dare you?
I didn't.
Yes, you did.
What?
We were going in order. So Nightmare on Camp Crystal Lake, then it was Exorcist Forbidden Screening.
Why would I skip one? You're the one with the map in front of you. You're the one that's dictating this podcast right now.
It's actually printed on here. I can't rub it off. Like, if I try to rub it off, nothing happens. It's in that order. And you decided to skip it and go to stage 48, so that's not my fault.
Oh, no, I didn't skip and go to stage 48 is part of Nightmare on Camp Crystal Lake tour bus tram golf cart experience. It's the end of that. So it's all encompassed in the one. It's not my fault that they separated it on the map.
According to the map, they're two different things. So factually, you're incorrect. Nikki's really annoyed. I think it's because she's tired. Anyway, moving on. The Exorcist Forbidden Screening, which takes place in the church set that's there in the area of the event itself. Now, this was probably on the lower end of our experiences. I think we had a bad taste in our mouth from the very beginning. We got in line, I think it was like a 10 to 15 minute wait posted. We waited 45 minutes. And I think the downside to this was that something broke, but they never told us. And at first they're like, oh, the experience is like 15 to 20 minutes. And it's like, pretty sure it's not. So by minute 40, they're like, oh, something broke. It's like, if you know that something is broken, you should really communicate this to the crowd and people who are waiting here, because people are paying $80 to $150 to be here today. Well, I mean, at least any other day. It was employee night and media night. On any other night, it's important to communicate if something is broken, because people are paying so much money to be there that you don't want them to waste their time sitting there in line for 30 minutes doing nothing because you haven't communicated to them that something isn't working. Now, to us, I wasn't that mad. Like, I was slightly annoyed that they're not telling us this stuff, but I wasn't mad. I just wish that the communication was a bit better overall.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like, you got to give people the opportunity to choose whether or not it's worth it for them to stay. And if they're at the end of a line that has been moving for 40 minutes, they very well might want to leave. Like, we were fortunately the next group in line to go in when this got really, really slow. So, you know, we knew that we were going to get in next. So we waited, and it wasn't that bad. And we understood it was, you know, very early on, opening night, and, you know, they were still getting kinks out. So we were understanding, but it was definitely a rough wait, especially at 41 weeks pregnant.
Yeah, and once we did get in, the experience is cool and fun. I just don't think it was as effective because we were kind of slightly annoyed at the situation that was happening to us. But overall, I don't want to spoil it because I think the surprises are interesting. I think if The Exorcist is extremely terrifying to you, I think you're going to find this experience extremely terrifying. It's like a 4D experience, so take what you will with that kind of a description. I think some of the stuff that they did in here was actually quite fun. I do also have to say that during our experience, I think they were trying to fix something on the other side of the door at the exit. So throughout the screening, we hear just like randomly on the other side of the doors, and it was really distracting.
Yeah, I'm still not sure if that was them trying to fix something or if that was the sound that was supposed to be there and scary. So I'm not sure. If you don't hear it when you go through, if you go through, then you'll know it was them trying to fix something.
I know exactly what it was, and it was them trying to fix something.
Okay.
Because I heard what it was when I was waiting for you to come out of the bathrooms, actually. Because the bathrooms are right on the other side of the building. And I was standing at the tables that were right at the exit. So I was watching people come out, and I heard what it was supposed to be, and it wasn't working for us. I'm going to mouth to you what it was. So now Nikki now knows what it was.
I already knew what you thought it was.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I'm just not convinced.
You're not convinced that that's what it was?
Yeah. I knew what you thought it was, but I didn't hear that, so I don't know.
Well, there's another attraction at another haunt that uses the exact same thing, and it sounded the exact same. That's how I know what it was.
Okay.
So just saying. So after that, coming back around, because Nikki skips a whole bunch of things and ruins our flow, to Fantasia.
So, about Halloween Horror Nights.
Let's talk about the other haunts now. Fantasia. So that was the bar that we mentioned at the very beginning of the show. When you walk into the actual experience itself, it's on the right-hand side. It's the bar from True Blood. And I would have to say that even if you're not a fan of True Blood, go into this bar. It is extremely well-themed. It's super cool. Gothic furniture everywhere. Everything is just completely covered in red lighting and so many shadows, and it's just super. There's this super creepy atmosphere to the entire experience, and I just think it's so much fun. Yeah, and as a fan of True Blood, it's really cool. I mean, from the moment you even look at the building, there's like this too cool for school like bouncer, vampire at the front, like with a rope over the door, and he's letting people in. There's like go-go dancers on either side of the door. Once you walk in, it's like super lush and red and velvet, and Eric's chair is up on this kind of stage, and you can sit in it, and it's just really fun. And the best part is their signature drink, which you actually get in a blood bag. Which I got because I could drink, even though it was a little tricky kind of getting the clip, because it was like a clip that you would find on a blood bag to kind of tie up the hose that you were drinking out of. Even though that was a little tricky, I actually thought it was really fun to have something like that. Anything to further propel the theme of your bar, which this is a bar, mind you. So I think you have to be 21 plus in order to actually get into this thing. So it is a really well-themed bar with well-themed drinks. Highly suggest you go into there. So the blood bag drink was actually like a vodka drink with grenadine and lemonade and a couple other things. And I actually thought it was pretty good. It was rather strong at the time. Didn't have a lot of food in my tummy, so it was having a good effect. Yeah, and I didn't drink, obviously, but I just had a really fun time being in there. And there's a few places for photo ops and pictures, and it's really cool. Yeah, so we highly suggest that everyone kind of check this out. Now, I'm going to skip this on the list because it has a little shop of horrors next, but I don't want to talk about the gift shop before we finish talking about the other experiences. The Lost Boys Arcade, which, not much to say about this. It was called the Lost Boys Arcade. They had 80s music playing, neon 80s colors in the walls, 80s arcade games. That was pretty much it. The only reference to Lost Boys was the title of the actual thing, which, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's cool that it was titled that, and I think it's a nice kind of thing to go do if you're tired of going through the mazes. You want to take a break, go somewhere to have your drink and play a video game and things like that. It's really cool. Overall, nothing overly exciting. It's an arcade, and I think that's fun.
Yeah, it was just an extra thing for people to do. And honestly, for this event, with the amount of mazes that there are, not a crazy big amount, it's like you can do everything in one night. So you do have the time and the opportunity to, kind of chill out for a bit and do these smaller little things, which you wouldn't any other event, Knott's or Queen Mary or Halloween Horror Nights, you would not take the time to, chill out in an arcade. But this event grants you the liberty of where you have that time to do it. So it's a fun little extra thing.
Exactly. And I think on top of that, I want to touch upon kind of other things that aren't necessarily on this list, but certain things that I actually think are kind of cool, when it comes to like the food offerings. Because right next door to the Lost Boys arcade is actually the Craven Diner, where it's obviously a huge reference to Wes Craven, horror director and maestro, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. Really big nod to him. So you walk in, there's skeleton. It's almost like 50s themed. There's skeletons that are dressed up in 50s costumes with blood on the tables, and it looks like they died there when they were eating food there. There's Freddy claw marks on the walls and things like that. It's just a really well themed food establishment, which if they're taking time to put thought and effort into just like this restaurant, it makes me so happy to think that that's the kind of detail they're going for, because imagine the kind of detail they're putting into everything else.
Yeah, it was super fun. And other than just the Craven Diner, they had like a stand outside the Exorcist experience that was selling like Reagan's pea soup, and that's really it for the themed food, I think.
Yeah, and something that I didn't see, which could have come later, but we were told was going to be there, but we didn't see, was Mrs. Lovett's Pie Shop, where you could buy, obviously, like pie with priest and things like that in it, which obviously isn't the real priest in there or anything like that. It's probably just like dog meat or something. Anyway, it's just regular meat. It's chicken or turkey or whatever it may be. That wasn't there. We didn't see that, but I still like the idea that they're kind of still going forward on, keeping everything within the realm of WB and horror, and keeping things in the intellectual property. I think that's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe the Mrs. Lovett's meat pie shop will be another year if it didn't quite make the cut for this year, but it's definitely something I hope to see in the future, because that would be really fun.
Yeah. And then next on the list is actually the Little Shop of Horrors, and this is actually the gift shop. And the gift shop had a whole bunch of myriad of products that you could buy, from Nightmare on Elm Street to Friday the 13th to True Blood to The Shining to, It to, any DC characters and things like that. But it was really well themed. Obviously the section with Friday the 13th had a little campfire in the front, and there was trees, and and then the section with the Conjuring stuff had Conjuring things everywhere, and the side where the Shining stuff was, there was papers everywhere that said, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, and it was just really, really well themed and thought out just for a simple gift shop.
Yeah, there was so much to see in there, and so much that you just really wanted to buy. And I thought it was fun too that they weren't really like promoting them super hard, but they did have official merch for horror made here. So they had shirts and a few other things that were pretty cool. They had the Joker and Pennywise on them. So
yeah, and then other than that, they also had a makeup demo down the way. It was on the other side of the Craven Diner. There wasn't a lot of signage for this. It was really, really minimal, much smaller than they had in the year prior, which actually was in the church itself, which we actually went and checked out, and we actually thought it was cool. So it's actually minimized. I think the makeup demo can go away. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's, the last stitch effort of trying to connect it in some way to the movies, which I don't think they need. I think they should save their money and focus more on what they've been doing really, really good at. I think it is the last remnants of what from last year I don't think is necessary. And every other aspect of the things that I didn't find necessary from last year have gone away. So this is the one last little thing. It's cool to see a makeup demo. It's cool to see people get made up in horrifying makeup. but I don't think it necessarily fits anymore within the realm of this event and what it's truly becoming.
Yeah, I agree. And like I was sitting right outside where it was, and for the last show of the night, the last makeup demo, they didn't even fill up the little room that they had it in. So it's not even great as a big people eater because it's in a very small space where not even a lot of people can fit.
Yeah, and it was very secluded too, and like I said, it was very hard to actually find where it was in the event. I mean, you would have to look at the map because I didn't know it was there, and I just happened to pass by. We walked by it a few times, and I didn't know it was there. Other than that, I mean, that was pretty much all the stuff that this event has to offer. I think that they have a bright, bright future ahead of them. They've really established themselves as creating a very unique custom experience for everything that they have here at this event, setting themselves apart from what Scary Farm does, what Fright Fest does, what Horror Nights does, what Queen Mary does, not necessarily competing against them in the sense of, trying to do what they do, but kind of creating their own niche audience for what they do. Do I think that they are now a major competitor in Southern California in the haunt world? 100% unequivocally, I think that they are huge competition now to everybody else who's been around. I think their main competition is Horror Nights, because Horror Nights is really the only other haunt that establishes itself as bringing horror movies to life. It is focusing on intellectual properties and making experiences from that. So Warner Brothers is now completely in that realm, and I think that is direct competition. When it comes to like Queen Mary or Fright Fest or not so much, because they're doing their own thing. They're not focusing on IP-related experiences. But when it comes down to which one did I actually think was more fun, it's a close one. I think that Warner Brothers this year is extremely strong.
I think you had more fun at Warner Brothers because you were with me.
I would agree. Sorry, Ken. I was with Ken from Theme Park Access. I was with him at Horror Nights. I had fun there too, but I missed you a lot.
I know. It's been a weird, funky haunt year. I would say that while I do think that WB is direct competition for Horror Nights in the realm of IPs and what properties they are no longer going to give away for use by Halloween Horror Nights, I think that the event in general is inevitably, because of where it's located, it's always going to be a smaller scale event in regards to like capacity and just how many people they can accommodate in a season. So it's competition, but it's always going to be slightly separate, I think, for me.
Do you think that because it's smaller and they sell less tickets and it'll become more of a exclusive experience, do you think that because of that it will become a little bit more sought after than a Horror Nights, because Horror Nights sells so many tickets?
I think so. I definitely think that's the case. And I think even as it is, they pretty much sell out like every night. So I think it's definitely going to be like a buy your tickets quick, otherwise you won't get them type thing in the future. And I don't think they'll have a problem selling out ever. So I think it's going to be a very successful event.
I do have to say that I think the ticket prices are a little expensive. I looked at for like a Friday night, and it was anywhere from like $80 to $100 for a regular ticket. Then for their VIP, Losers Club package, which includes 2 drinks and a few other things, in front of line, it was like $160. So it is rather pricey, but I think what people need to keep in mind is that this isn't like any other haunt. There isn't 13 mazes to go through that you're just kind of walking through conga line. You're actually going through these experiences, and they're almost like tailored small experiences that are very unique and different. And I think people have to kind of keep that in mind when going to an event like this. It's not going to be a Horror Nights. It's not going to be a Fright Fest. It's very, very different. And if you want a different experience, if you want something unique, if you want something fun, you want something scary that carries a lot of different variety of experiences, I think WB is the option for you, especially if you're looking for something along the lines of Horror Nights, where you're walking through these sets and experiences that make you feel like you're in the movie. And I think WB knocks that out of the park.
I completely agree, and I think it's inevitable that for such an event like this, where the space is limited, that the prices will be high, because it's supply and demand, and they can charge those prices, and people are paying those prices, and they sell out. So it's the price you're going to have to pay for a really great experience. And I, for one, think it's worth it this year. Last year I might not have said so, but they've just upped their game so much that I think it's a really fun night. And if you save up and you want something slightly different than your normal haunt experience, then this is where you need to go.
And I said it at the beginning, but I do think that they kept everything that made the event wonderful from last year and built upon that to the fullest extent. And they've really created an event now that, like you said, like last year we may not have said like it was totally worth it, because it just kind of felt, even though the experiences were cool, it was a little disjointed as an event. This year, it feels cohesive. It feels like an event. It feels like there's more going on than just an amalgamation of these different mazes. It feels like something more. And I really am excited for the future of what WB Horror Made Here has in Southern California. Because of what they're doing with, IPs like It and Arkham and Conjuring. I can't wait to see what they can do with other experiences. Imagine doing a Gremlins maze. Imagine doing a Monster Squad maze. They have so many, Lost Boys, they have so many opportunities to do really, really cool experiences on IPs that no one else is going to do. And I think that everyone, if you have the opportunity, you should be checking out WB Horror Made Here, simply because of how unique and different it is.
I completely agree. They have so many great IPs to work with that the possibilities are endless for the future for what they can do, and I'm really excited to see what they come up with.
That brings us to the end of our episode, where we just talked everything about Warner Brothers Horror Made Here. We had a blast. I'm glad, Nikki, you got to go before this little monster came out of you.
Little monster's right. She's cute and adorable, but man, can she scream. And so I am very happy that, except for her one little interruption, that she stayed quiet this whole time.
I'm pretty sure if I hold the microphone up to her nose, we could probably hear her breathing. No, I just poked her nose with the microphone. Whoopsie doodles. Anyway, moving forward, before we get out of here, guys, we actually have another 5-star written review to read out from iTunes. And this one is from Josh R. Reed, and it says, fun, nice, and interesting people, I guess. It's kind of cut off. I can't click on it. It's on my iPhone. I would just say an interesting P, because it just says P-E ... Fun, nice, and interesting P. An amazing and informative podcast. 100% recommend this podcast to anyone who has an interest in theme parks. Oh, and you guys are most definitely fun, nice, and interesting people. I can't wait for Aaron to be born so my favorite duo can become a trio, which we have already. We're a trio now. But we're not changing the show title, so everyone can stop telling us to change the show title, because it's always going to be the theme park duo, regardless. Even when she's 18, she's like, Dad, I want to be on the show. I was like, no, it's my show.
She might make a few appearances and gurgles and screams, but yeah, it's still the theme park duo. +1.
Theme park duo +1. I'm just going to add a +1 to our graphic.
Yeah.
So, but thank you so much, Josh R. Reed, for leaving that review. That makes 50 reviews for the episode on iTunes.
Yay!
So that's a lot of reviews there on iTunes. And if you haven't already, make sure to head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star written review. It's a great way to support the show. It helps people find the show and enjoy it like you are right now. And if you want to go to any social media platform like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or what's the other one? There's another one in there. Twitter. If you want to go to any one of those, we're on all of those platforms under Theme Park Duo. Now, if you want to email us, you can always email us at
themeparkduo@gmail.com.
And Aaron, I know you can't join in on this ending here, but this ending is the first ending with you involved. You're right here with us. So always remember, everyone, there's always a great big beautiful tomorrow. See ya.
Thanks for riding with the theme park duo. Make sure to gather all your belongings before the end of the podcast. Bye-bye.